All right, hello. This is Alexander Wales. What are we doing today? We are editing the exclusions document. I did this. I did a little bit of work off screen. I split out some of the additional material. This is linked in the Discord. I don't want to really link it now because it exposes some email addresses. But this is the extra material from it. But this is split out into a thing on its own. You can read that in the. There's a link. Um, Here, let me find the link. But so that I can paste it into here, into chat. That's the link for the additional material. I might work on some of that today. Mostly, I'm going to be going through and trying to bring all these in line with each other. The Doris Finch exclusion zone was the first one that I wrote, and so is like quite a bit different than you might want. So what I'm doing here is I changed. It used to say nature, instead it says summary. I'm going to add a spoiler. Whoops. Summary. I don't want to use major and minor. I'll just say yes. Spoilers, yes. This is going to be a pain in the butt to do this like 66 times. I'm going to try to keep these summaries to like a single line. Okay. And I was gonna just do a triage. Yeah, I'm gonna read through this one and Blue in the Bottles, and then I will triage the rest of the doc. I'm just gonna go through, find the to dos that I left for myself. There's about 25 of them. Some of them I am just not gonna do because they're like too difficult or too small, or like I'll decide I some of them were put in place because I just didn't feel like doing it at the time, and some of them I will not feel like doing now, and then I'll just say, okay, we're not doing it, and that'll be fine. Okay. I am going to read out loud. It is a. In my experience, it is a good way to edit. It is slower, but part of why it's a good way to edit is that it slows you down, and you're more likely to not skip words in your head. Because even like looking at this now, I'm trying to like my eyes are trying to race ahead. So starting with history. At the age of 15, a young human girl by the name of Doris Finch discovered a novel field of magic that allowed her to create copies of herself, given no materials on hand and roughly 5 minutes of time. That is a slightly long sentence. Like, okay, I'm not going to cut it down, but this this is a long sentence, especially for being largely introductory. For several years after that, she came to grips with her power, creating more and more duplicates until eventually taking over the entirety of the area covered by area. It is theorized that this magic is removed the parentheses. Allow the copy clans of the Highgrath Kingdom to function. The slow speed of historic copy clan growth calls that into question. Sure. especially because it's repeated down below. Though the slow speed of historic copy clan growth calls that into question, and the copy clans themselves did not survive to the time of the First Empire. Since the overrun of the exclusion zone, numerous attempts have been made to accommodate the so-called Republic of Doris Finch, almost all of which have met with limited success. Antecedent. These attempts have met with limited success, if not backfiring outright. Entads, which Dorises can keep eternally if they're willing to create and kill copies of themselves every 24 hours, are one of the strongest advantages the Dorises have. But attempts to introduce Entads into the DFEZ often result in one-sided use, hoarding, and other unanticipated knock-on effects that primarily result from the Dorises being their own worst enemies. Deals made with the Dorises are often reneged on, and in the modern day are banned by the Empire of Common Cause. Entad Introduction is the thing that is banned. Entad Introduction is banned by the Empire Common Cause. Pending certain concessions. The ability of the Dorises to make even temporary and location-restricted Entads they're temporary and location-restricted to make Okay, I'm just gonna say temporary here, and hope that we cover that this is also location restricted elsewhere, just so it reads better. The ability of the Dorises to make temporary copies of Entads and materials would have made it a valuable trading partner, but didn't take long for unethical exploitation of the Dorises to happen, which largely consisted of creating warded bunkers at the edge. Wow, the sentence is extremely long. There's also passive voice. The bodies were then tossed through a particularly strong annihilation ward or less sustainably dumped further into the zone. With the inted copies and materials, we say EOCC on second use. Dorsfinch can create copies of herself given relatively short amounts of time, initially 5 minutes, later as little as half a second, and with no cost in terms of resources. These copies have minds of their own and are physically real for almost all purposes, with very few exceptions, the biggest of which is their inability to leave the exclusion zone. At present, there are approximately 9 to 10 million copies of Dorsfinch within the exclusion zone. These copies have a variety of divergences, primarily in terms of training, with various strains or branches of Dorsfinch having learned blood magic, star magic, steel magic, pustule magic, bone magic, fire magic, and a few others. Now visibly aged 30, for reasons unknown even to the Dorses themselves. Copies retain all material and equipment that the original did, but this material likewise cannot leave the zone and will decay to nothing after 24 hours. Duplicated materials can be duplicated a second time with another split, which will cause one clone's materials to have the same remainder of time, while the other will have a full 24 hours. I'm not 100% sure that's clear. Duplicated materials can be duplicated ad nauseum, which will cause once considered a temperate of, or once consisting of temperate forests, the DFEZ has long been stripped bare of any trees, leaving the area desolate. Because the Dorses commonly create copies and then kill them in order to reset the timer on their equipment or engage in cannibalism, corpses are a common sight, with ad hoc dumping grounds, which have given rise to a unique biosphere of flora and fauna which feed upon human food sources, with many examples of hypertrophied fungi, mosses, and vermin. Some of these are used by the Dorses in their makeshift economy, but many are simply pests that the Dorses are forced to live with and unable to fully kill. The central location of the DFEZ is Dorisopolis, a city made almost entirely using crude steel magic, where the large majority of Dorises live and work. The city is divided up by its buildings, almost all of which are their own coherent entities, guarded so that there's some semblance of controlled entry and exit. The city itself is typically controlled by one of the larger gangs, though whether in whole or in part varies depending on the fortunes of the individual strains of Dorises. With combat magic users, why would we not just say mages? We'll just say mages. With the combat mages typically being the most powerful, and the utility mages enslaved or otherwise coerced into doing work. Outside of Dorisopolis are the outskirts, which are often used for farmland, though the farms require heavy fortification in order to prevent theft or destruction. At least some of the land is unexploited, mostly due to being inhospitable to regular plant life as a result of oversaturation with bodies. Ad nauseum? No. Okay. Definitely been using that wrong my whole life. Yeah, change that. Like, I don't mind a super long sentence, so long as it reads well, but the problem is they usually don't read well. God. Okay. So that's 15 minutes to finish this one. The DFEZ is surrounded by a thick magestone wall. We'll just say wall. Doesn't need to be barrier. Magestone wall. Okay, DM's notes. I don't think any for this one. Yep, I think that's fine. And then I'm going to... Oh, these aren't in order, are they? How irritating. Doris. And then we enter the code, DFEZ. And shift that to second pass. I don't know how many passes I'm doing. My hunch is that I will do just a single editing pass and then the final edit will be like right before it's posted. I'll just read through it. I'm not gonna, because like I don't want to outsource editing to the readers because the readers don't necessarily know what I want. This is a surprisingly short one. Okay, so what do I need? So we do name, code, and then whether there's spoilers. Most of them will not, like, if there's no spoilers, they're not going to have a tag, but... It'd be... and this one will be spoilers, yes. Most of them do not have spoilers. Elijah Blue... It is great for continuity and for typos. For stuff like this though, where it's like I want the summaries to be shorter and then just poke more into features. Elisha Blue was Necromancer, and this doesn't include the code in the summary. I don't think that's like necessary, and I kind of wish I hadn't done it for like every single one of them, but whatever. Elisha Blue was Necromancer, dealing largely in animating the dead in order to allow them to do useful labor. The son of two wealthy necromancers before him, he had a fair bit of material backing, business acumen, and facility with magic itself. He was able to make several novel, if minor, breakthroughs in necromancy, which, along with his resources and aptitude for business, meant that he was able to expand his shipping business. Business repeated twice. After the death of his parents, he inherited their fortune and turned his efforts towards research, seemingly with the intent of founding his own Athenaeum. I think that's unnecessary. We just say Athenaeum for necromancy. 12 years after his laboratory was founded, exclusion struck, restricting magic to an area which surrounded well, the second number used its own classification scheme, the EOCC equivalent. Remove equivalent, the EOCC. Okay. And first instance is always Empire of Common Cause instead of being abbreviated. Not long after the exclusion, several manufactories were built which employed the labor of this new variety. We say a new variety of undead for continuity. A scheme was introduced whereby ill people would be brought into the zone to die and be turned It was only until after the formation of the EOCC that the true nature of the zombies as thinking, feeling people trapped inside bodies they do not control was discovered. Given the relatively wide range of goods produced within the NLEZ and the horror, shoot. So here we say NLEZ. So we say NLEZ, which is a problem because we've not called it that before in this entry. To this day, he remains an outcast, and his dictatorship is under a complete embargo from the EOCC. Classification of the NLEZ as a minor exclusion, in spite of its relative safety, is contentious, and due to the people become blues. Remove that Elisha. Remove that Elisha. We don't call him Elisha, we just call him Blue. Unable to control any of the actions that their body takes. While lesser forms of necromancy available to Blue do not require such suffering, it is these zombies which the Exclusion Zone is most known for. Blue zombies are fully autonomous and capable of following complex orders given to them by Elisha Blue. Additionally, he's able to see and sense through them. It is difficult to get good estimates of the population of the zone, but a complicating factor in dealing with the zone. Is held in waiting a good construction? Okay, that's fine. I'm going to say second pass on that. And that's NLEZ. Okay. So we're at 33 minutes. Start of the paragraph. Which paragraph? Oh, it was only like that? It was only after the formation? Yeah. Right, it's redundant. Got it. Okay. Oster Exclusion Zone. And what do I call this? Code? OCZ. This is not in the book basically at all, so we say we do not include a spoilers thing. Now excluded clock magic allows. This is definitely early wording. The Oster Exclusion Zone was once the site of the city of Megarigium. Is this a good name? I don't usually, when I'm reading fantasy, I don't usually read names. I just like absorb this combination of characters without like consciously trying to pronounce it in my head. Which contained the premier academy for horologists. At one time thought likely to be the next large Athenaeum. Athenaeum? I don't know how to pronounce this either, which is a shame because I use the word a lot. The Academy of Logical Transgression was a sizable campus and major point of pride for the city. Horologists took quite a bit of time to set up their clockwork creations, sometimes on the order of years for the more complicated ones. And these expensive creations often took many years to pay off the debt incurred in their creation. Creation is used twice. We'll say construction. As a consequence of this, clock magic was primarily state-sponsored or capitalist in nature, and the city had a number of prominent factories. Shorten all these sentences. The city had a number of prominent factories where the fundamental nature of reality was changed in order to expedite certain manufacturing or material processes. Uses included compacting materials, generating high amounts of heat, and the production of expensive materials. Materials is used twice. Bring out my thesaurus, which is just Google. Substance, probably. In late 170 FE, progress began to be made. Progress was made. I think began to be made is fine. It has different connotations from was made. Progress began to be made on analytical clockworks, a field created with the express intent of reducing the onerous costs and time commitment of clock magic. By 191 FE, construction of the last sim had been completed, a clockwork which reduced perceptual time necessary for the creation of more clockworks. Remove fairly in a large area. By 193 FE, the sim S had been completed, increasing the reach of the sim to a half-mile radius around the academy campus. You especially don't need like fairly large area if you're going to directly quote size. The much faster pace allowed by these large projects allowed twice afforded. And the no, that's fine. And the reduced cost of clockworks allowed new designs to flourish. Fearing exclusion, the Academy of Logical Transgression put in place a number of limitations and regulations to the creation of clockworks. These measures proved too little, too late. Sorry, allowed again. Yeah. Okay. For a generation of horologists who were educated and trained in the Lessem era, practice of dealing with clock magic was much different than for their forebears. The reduction in constraints meant that they could be less precise and more experimental, and didn't need to wait months or years to see the fruits of their labor. By the time the Academy had put their restrictions in place, yeah, that's fine. Clockworks had already... No, that's why it's weird. It's because we say they put it in place. We don't need this. I don't really need this. We don't really need this because it's like a repeat of the above paragraph. Or we move this down. This is one of the things that editing gets you. Is it gets you not having this stuff. Okay. When the exclusion happened, most people within the area were able to safely evacuate, with some professors and students staying behind in the hopes of containing it. Almost all lost their lives in the process, and those that didn't were transformed into inhuman entities. The Sorry, I'm not speaking because I am like... I feel like my voice is going to give out way before my brain gives out, so... Though there are bound to be a number of other effects in place. If a person can survive the very transition, Okay, OSEZ. Come on, where are you? Okay. Right there. OSEZ, second pass. Alright, Fountain of Everblood. Oh, this... Is it spherical exclusion zones from... I need to add to this one. This was one of the first ones I did, and I was just like, you know what? I think this might have been one that... where I was just like, okay, I'm going to make these super short. And I did not end up doing that, which is probably not a great idea. So this is only like 200 words. Oh, man. Well, it's unknown when the Fountain of Everblood was first produced. Could the exclusion sort itself out? I'm going to say no, because I like the idea of a giant. I mean, otherwise it's just a dead exclusion, where it like crushes itself, and then I guess you would still have all that blood, but okay. I don't know. Exclusions do sort themselves out. It's just like a bunch of the ones that sort themselves out are just like, like NTAD exclusions. If it's an NTAD that destroys itself and causes a calamity, it's just like 100 people die and then no one hears about it anymore. And those aren't in here because they're relatively boring. So like imagine this. There's a NTAD that turns things into geese. And it gets made more powerful by a meta NTAD. Add the two of these together, there's an NTAD exclusion. But what happens is that everything just gets turned into geese in like a, I don't know, half-mile radius, right? Including both NTADs. And then so what this looks like historically is just there's a small town and all the buildings and all the like knickknacks and all the people turned into geese at once. It's hard to say it was ever an exclusion, right? But that's like what that would look like. Um, like if it closes itself out early, then it's just not going to be an exclusion. In terms of the Fountain of Everblood, it could crush itself through pressure, and then no additional blood would be added. But part of the idea is that it stops itself because of pressure. Like eventually, the pressure gets high enough that no more blood can come out. Um, the immense velocity. Um, Additionally, the extreme pressure. Oh, that doesn't like. Can you? What is that in? Systolic overpressure. Oh, here. Do blood pressure in PSI. So two PSI. Okay, but 2 psi seems really low. And normal atmospheric. Okay, that is what I was missing. Okay. Atmospheric pressure and 2 psi. That's all I want. So it would be 17 psi. We clarify. No, I just want the 17 psi. I want an average psi of the plane of blood. And 17, that's close enough. That's as much work as I want to do. Yes, but yes, pressure would vary based on gravity. The elemental plane of blood doesn't have gravity though. It just has pressure. The actual psi, I don't think it's going to be stated, but it's like a very hard barrier. Um, Oh no, I for sure if the government is looking at Google searches and like can't figure out that I'm a writer, I would definitely for sure be on a watch list. It's always like, what was I last night or maybe the night before that I was looking up um like how to hotwire a car. Like just it's like 10 Google searches in a row of like how to hotwire a car. Can you still hotwire a modern car? Instructions on hotwiring a car. Um, you end up doing that a lot, depending on what you're writing, I guess. But um, can I get Side of the blood dome. What? Oh yeah. Side. Okay, that's fine. This is just like doubled in length, and I think is better for it. Yeah. Okay, Fountain of Everblood is FEEZ and is second pass done. Okay, Publican Exclusion Zone. I don't like this. The more I look at this picture, the more I don't like. This is a. It's not a photo negative. I'm going to turn Dark Reader off for just a second. I don't like the look of this. What do I have that image as? I have that as a 6. Ugh. Okay. Well, whatever. Publican Exclusion Zone. I do like this one. And I'll turn Dark Reader off so you can see it. This is the... Okay, Publican Exclusion Zone is no spoilers. I did go through and I changed... This used to say nature and now it says summary. We'll remove that. We go Control-Shift-V. Oh, God. Bold. Automatic bold gets me every time. Nope. There. Okay. The Publican Exclusion Zone, and then we... is home to roving taverns looking for people to sleep and eat inside of them. Inside of them. The aggressive nature of these taverns makes the zone dangerous and chaotic, though a properly prepared visitor can follow certain rules and learn to thrive within the environment. This arguably, the second line arguably should not be there. We should be like paring those down, but I like it, so. I think it makes it feel, from the start, more friendly. Places that were able to pick themselves up when business was slow. The original inns were classified as type of domesticated magical beasts. Each was piloted by a publican who helped to serve customers and make occasional repairs to as time passed, the care and feeding of the care and feeding of taverns with this came demand for more The reproductive cycle of the moving taverns was a mystery until 193 FE when it was discovered that taverns lay eggs on certain conditions. And from that point forward, effort was made to collect and nourish these eggs, done largely by sleeping next to them and providing warmth and psychic energy. In 213 FE, the method of fertilization was discovered, and from that point forward, breeding programs were started by the Second Empire in an attempt to create mobile housing and other institutions. Not institutions. A new strain of tavern, this one with a relatively low lifespan, relatively high reproduction rate. Once exclusion occurred, number of institutions were abandoned as the profession of publican of the taverns previously domesticated. Just remove that. Became feral, and little effort was put into the problem until it was too late. In the modern era, before they are eventually worn down by younger, more once exclusion occurred, a number of institutions okay. In the southeastern area of the PUEZ is Graveyard of Taverns. While the taverns take building materials in their younger ages, they also generate material as they grow to their minimum size. This results in extra material being added to the zone whenever a tavern dies, which is a somewhat regular occurrence. The graveyard appears to be the result of the peculiarities of the tavern's life cycle, where older taverns are likely to seek out materials for their self-repair. As these attempts at self-repair often fail without a publican, a feedback loop has resulted with injured taverns going to the site of dead taverns and dying there themselves. A few taverns have been able to sustain themselves there and tend to be large, old, and mean. The northern regions of the zone are populated by a small group of mortals who largely live in taverns that have been cared for with mortal hands by a handful of remaining cared for by a handful of remaining publicans. These taverns are a relatively safe place to be, as the large, old Outside those older taverns, the zone is considered uninhabitable, as the small, young taverns would bash against each other, attempting to pick up a patron, usually resulting in mortal tended. What? Oh, right, sure. Mortal tended is like a bad phrase, though. I was just gonna say well kept. Outside those older taverns, these had brief appearance in one of our games, though it was just one moving tavern, and the implication that they were a species of their own didn't come until later. I think of a tendency to create moving or thinking buildings, subsapient. Um, returning to the valley. Publican is technically like you could classify it as a You could classify it as just a magical beast that's been excluded. Okay, that one's done. Publican. Oh, it's right there. Publican is the P easy. No, PU easy. Second pass done. Okay, that's that's almost like an hour and 20 minutes. I'll do at least one more. Wait, let me check how many I've done, and then we can get some sense of how long these are taking. So that's 5. So these are about 15 minutes each. Core Flowers is not spoilers. The Core Flowers exclusion zone is a relatively populated zone. I haven't come across any to-dos. I was thinking I would run into more, but okay. That had brilliant protections created before. We can just say rabbits are smurps. There aren't rabbits. They're called smurps. Smurps. Um, the rule is that exclusions can apply to anything, literally anything. Okay. The Hat of Brilliant Protection. This is implied by saying at the time. Fear. Uh, yeah, the sentence needs work. The first wearer of the hat. Just remove all this. Just remove all this. Okay. Yes. The hat makes people want to protect the hat. That is all it does. Bunker down within the city and put emphasis. Just change that. So how long is this? This is like 30 good years. Okay. Um, while travel out of the city is highly restricted through fear of the occult. Through fear? We capitalized cult for whatever reason, but I'm fine with it. Um, while the city contains only 100,000 people. What does this even mean? No, Juniper didn't do anything with this hat. Okay, we say a heavily guarded and fortified location where the hat is kept. Uh, no, because they knew the hat would be safe. If more interesting, no, is more interesting. Good fodder for the hat is not mind control. It's it's alignment shifting, which is different. Which is more it's more sticky. I don't want to get into that right now, but it's more if you have your values um and you've been like living those values for like 30 years, to just forcibly change those values because it was, against the wishes of a previous iteration of yourself. Yeah, it's equivalent to death. The thing is, the hat's going to be safe in heaven, right? So no one needs to protect the hat anymore. And so the compulsion can be just easily circumvented uh, instead of having to like undo it. Um, okay, done. What do we call this one? Core flowers, which is in the 30s. CFEZ. Double check that is correct. CFEZ, yes. CFEZ. Call that second pass. We can do one more. Uno más. Just remove this because it's like obvious that it's one of the few ones that's free. Oops. So we cut that, and then we cut all of that. All people, buildings, plants, and animals, well, some else. Warders can tell that it's once major magic because of its spectrum. So, warding has this like this two-dimensional magical spectrum that they can see things on, and they can tell by the size of the block. that there's like more going on with it. It's crude analysis, but that's the idea. It's a spectrum analysis. Within the first 8 days of the effect being noticed. Remove the passive voice here. No significant threat from the magical effect is found. I actually think that's still passive voice. No, but whatever. I don't know. It reads better. And people were allowed to return to their changed homes. The LLEZ has had a remarkably stable existence from then until the modern day, surviving through the Second Inter-Imperium and the formation of the Empire of Common Cause without much in the way of change. The zone has more visitors than permanent residents. They caused fundamental changes to their biological makeup. The LLEZ is primarily a flat area with only few rivers running through it and little in the way of farmland. A small city exists on one edge of the zone, used mostly for trade, and with sanatoriums straddling the edge for long-term health care. While entrance into and out of the zone is currently unrestricted, there are crumbling walls surrounding the zone that date to the Second Empire's early containment procedures. So all buildings don't become the same type of building because this is just one of the things I like doing. The Behringer object classification scheme. There is I think Bacon Time linked it. There are object classification schemes where you can say like these things are on different levels from each other, and so if you building is too large of an object class, so like all homes are the same, but if something is a like hospital, it'll be different. So yes, you could probably build a skyscraper there if you did it fast enough, I guess. especially if the players are there as part of recuperation from a... this is where I want to do finally, but I like what comes after this finally, right? Um, here we'll say alternately. Google really does not like saying alternately, and I looked it up once, and it was like one of those dumb fucking grammar things where like two grammarians like had some kind of dispute, and like only people who care about this one stupid word are like actually it's not alternately, it's alternatively. You should never use alternately. It's like a bad word. I don't know, it's just this it's this prescriptive nonsense that I grudgingly go along with because I just don't want to talk to the prescriptive people about whether alternately is a word or not. um and I probably would not fix it if Google did not give me the squiggle, but Google is always like, it's alternatively, it's not alternately. It's like in common speech, I hear people use alternately instead of alternatively all the time. So like, why can we not just? I don't know. It's one of those things that bugs me a lot, and it's happened like 3 times in the course of writing this. Where was I? Finally. Um, okay, Alone is done. You know what would make this a bunch easier? Let me sort A to Z. Excuse me? Sort A to Z? Okay. Whew. Almost destroyed the, all the information there. Lone is LLEZ, and I'm just gonna say undefined. I don't want to deal with that right now. Okay, can do one more. Do I have it in me? Yes. I'm just gonna keep doing these until I'm like, nah, I'm done. Okay, this is fine. This one is not in the story. Flagoon. We're not gonna say relatively. We're just gonna say rare because there's supposed to be. I think initially there was supposed to be like 6. Third, one more. Oh, yeah. I thought that was an editing note. No, I'll just keep going. I'll just keep going until I'm like, no, I really don't want to do another because I'm chunking through them and getting them done, which is what's necessary. So if I can do this every day, then I could potentially finish in like just 10 days of editing to get everything first pass. But I know there's some of these that I want to rewrite or that I don't think I haven't come across one where I'm like, no, this is no good. But we'll see. Um, a staff with 3 charges per day would be permanently increased to 4 charges per day. Once this effect is discovered, it's highly prized. say certain effects, information, materials created by those together. Which the zone is entirely contained. I don't want to double up information here. Since 381 FE, all interaction with the zone has been prohibited by the Kingdom of Panic, which is the zone. Okay. I don't know if I'm doing that. Okay, these are our first to-dos of what I thought was going to be a to-do stream, but I think I'm just straight editing and do them as I come across them. Okay. I'm going to take a short break, and I will be back to finish this one, and then I don't know if I'm doing one more. I'll be back in like 2 minutes. Um, the problem is that it needs to be numerical in order to be maximized. So like a non-numerical magical property doesn't get maximized. It's only something where you can bump a number up by one. Um, uh, um, I think that's enough toward the edges. Let's see. I think this is going out. This is just I don't need to explain it. Um, though so far, um, um, okay. I need to restructure this paragraph. I gotta check timelines. Is 112 mirrors is 378. Okay, sure. Um, We'll just say mirror magic. Whatever. You can go read the other exclusion zone if you want. Why would mirror... there's something in mirror magic. Okay, well now I gotta go search for mirror magic. Let me finish this real quick first. There's something about NTADs in the mirror magic section. But I'll go check that real quick after I'm done with this. Okay. No, I don't think there's anything about it in there. Okay, that is FLEZ. I thought for sure there was like some key command to change this. There probably is, I just don't know it. All right, what do we have done? We have 8 done. 8 are at second pass. Yeah, I don't want to do this, so I'm going to do it. 2:17. This will be a longer stream then. Whatever. This one's not in the text. We just say is. This includes state functions like census, taxation, border control, elections, and others. An autonomous minimum violent. I don't think this one needs anything more. So that's... I'm just gonna call that first pass, or I'm gonna call that edited. I think I made like 2 changes to that. I don't have a note to add for this one. I think that's fine. Glass wall is not in the story. Move this down. Okay. Got this reoriented. It's not in the story, but it does show up every now and then. So I don't think reading this first is gonna be a spoiler though. Uh, this is not correct. As a consequence of this, we'll say fail. Um, I don't like this sentence. Find glass wall on the map. Which is this is another one of those that is like potentially an in-person exclusion. There's nothing preventing this from being an in-person exclusion, and it very well could be. Um, like that makes sense within the context, but it's not called out as that. And if it is, it's unknown to anyone. Um, Um, with the smallest of them. Effector fields are from the Culture series. I mean, they're from other places too. They weren't invented for the Culture, but the GWEZ is largely taken up by what is thought to be a single crystal entity. What's my word count at? 62,000. Okay. Why is that weird? Well, like what? I don't understand what's weird about this. They typically float, though some have been spotted rolling. I mean, you could say though some roll, but it's like a rare thing. If you can give me a rephrase that you think is better, that would be helpful to me. I think for me, I like the ambiguity, or not the ambiguity, but the suggestion that like we don't know why they roll. Like if they can float, why do some of them roll? You just think you look at it and you think it's weird, and you can't really figure out why they do that instead of floating. Okay, I am reaching my limit. GW, easy. I'm gonna see what the second one, or what the next one is. Lunar. Okay, I'm not going to do this one. Are there any to-dos left in it? No. So... Okay, that's going to be it. That's 2.5 hours of editing. Got how many of these done? 10. 10 done. That's a fine pace. That means the whole thing is going to take shoot, 70 entries. Wow, it was definitely time for me to stop streaming if I can't do basic math. That's 15, 17 hours, something like that, to do all the editing. Some take longer, some take shorter, and DM's notes are slowing me down a little bit, but I think that's fine. I think they add something to the document that was not there before in a good way. Okay. I will be streaming again tomorrow. Probably not as long. Thank you so much for joining me. And I will see you next time.